Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. There's a lot of weather action unfolding right now, and as we head into February, the pattern is really going to start changing, especially in the next couple of days. If you thought we were going to get a break from winter weather anytime soon, think again. In fact, things are about to get pretty interesting, and I'm here to break it all down for you so you know exactly what to expect. Let's start with what's happening at the moment. If we look at the satellite images, you'll see a major storm system that moved through Texas and Arkansas over the past couple of days. This system has been responsible for some very heavy rainfall in parts of the South, and now it's shifting eastward into the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic. We're going to have to keep a close eye on this because a squall line is expected to form later today, and this is going to bring strong thunderstorms to areas like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the Florida panhandle as we go through the afternoon and evening hours. Some of these storms could get pretty intense with gusty winds and possibly some isolated tornadoes. As the squall line continues to move eastward into the overnight hours, it will bring heavy rain and strong winds all the way to the East Coast. The heavier rain is also pushing up into Kentucky, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. So those areas will be seeing a lot of rain today and tomorrow. But here's the thing. Once we get into tonight, colder air is going to push into the system, and this could cause some of that rain to change over to snow, especially in northern Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and the higher elevations of the Appalachian Mountains. So if you're up in that area, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. While all of this is going on in the east, the West Coast is about to experience something even bigger. A huge atmospheric river event is moving into the Pacific Northwest and Northern California right now, and this is shaping up to be a significant storm. This setup is one of those mid-latitude cyclones that pulls in deep tropical moisture from the Pacific, and it's going to slam into the West Coast with everything it has. We're talking heavy rain, strong winds, and feet of snow in the mountains. This system is going to bring extended periods of rainfall, especially to areas like Northern California and Southern Oregon, where flash flooding could become a serious concern. The snow is going to be even more impressive, with some mountain ranges likely to see several feet of snow by the time this event wraps up on Tuesday. If you're in these areas, be prepared for dangerous travel conditions, especially in the mountains where snow could pile up rapidly and cause some major disruptions. For the coastal areas, the wind gusts are going to be intense as well, and there's a chance that some of these storms could produce winds strong enough to cause power outages. But what's really wild about this storm is that it's also affecting Hawaii. Yes, Hawaii. The Big Island is currently under a winter storm watch because the highest elevations are going to see snow, strong winds, and even blizzard-like conditions. Mauna Kea, the highest peak on the island, could see as much as 10 to 15 inches of snow, and the winds could gust up to 85 mf. So while you might think of Hawaii as being all tropical, they're definitely experiencing some winter weather at the moment, which is crazy to think about. And we're not just talking about some light snow here. This is a serious storm with heavy snowfall and really dangerous conditions up at the summit. If you're heading to the Big Island, especially the higher elevations, make sure you're prepared for some truly extreme conditions. Looking ahead, the weather is only going to get more interesting. This atmospheric river event is going to keep pounding the West Coast through the weekend and into early next week with multiple waves of heavy rain and snow moving through. As we move into February, the pattern is going to shift quite a bit. We're going to see a lot of warm air surge into the south with temperatures running well above average. It's going to feel more like spring in places like Texas, the Southeast, and parts of the Mid-Atlantic, with temperatures possibly reaching 15 to 25 degrees above normal for several days. This warm-up is going to come courtesy of a strong zonal flow, where the jet stream is moving mostly from west to east. This will allow warm, moist air to flood in from the Pacific and Gulf of Mexico, bringing that spring-like warmth to much of the south. But before you get too comfortable with the warm weather, here's where things start to get interesting. While the south is basking in warmth, we're going to see a big change taking place across the west and the northern U.S. Right now, a ridge is building over Alaska, which means cold air from the Arctic is going to start spilling southward as we get into next week. And if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that whenever a ridge builds over Alaska, it tends to push cold air down into the lower 48. So while the South will be enjoying the warmth for a while, by next weekend, colder air is going to begin moving into the northern U.S. We're going to see that Arctic air slowly push south, which could bring some much colder temperatures to places like the Great Lakes, the Midwest, and eventually the Northeast. As that colder air starts to move south, we'll also see the return of snow, especially across the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. So don't get too used to the mild weather if you're in the South. It's not going to last forever. Another big factor we're looking at is what's going on up in the stratosphere. The polar vortex is starting to stretch, and whenever that happens, it can lead to some colder weather for us here in the U.S. Normally, the polar vortex is a big, compact ball of cold air that stays up near the North Pole, but when it stretches, it can cause some of that cold air to spill out and make its way south into the mid-latitudes. Right now, we're seeing the vortex begin to elongate, and this could lead to a significant change in the weather over the next couple of weeks. If it continues to stretch, we could be in for a period of much colder weather, especially in the second half of February. And to back this up, we're seeing signs of colder weather starting to build across Europe. When Europe experiences a cold snap, the U.S. often follows suit a week or two later, and it looks like that's going to happen again. So as we head deeper into February, you can expect that cold air from the Arctic to start pushing southward, and we'll likely see a return to more winter-like conditions across the lower 48. By the time we hit next weekend, the South will begin to feel the effects of this shift, and we could see temperatures dropping 10 to 15 degrees below normal in some areas. Meanwhile, to the south of this system, California's Central Valley and lower elevations are seeing rain, although the snow will remain confined to areas above 3,000 feet in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. Areas like Fresno and Sacramento won't see snow, but snow may accumulate in the foothills, adding much-needed moisture to the region, which has been struggling with drought in recent years. The precipitation in these areas will help replenish water supplies, making it a welcome sight for many. As we move eastward, the storm system will bring snow and colder weather to the northern Great Plains. States like Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana are already experiencing snowy conditions, and these areas are expected to get even more snow throughout the day. The higher elevations could see snow totals in the 6-12-inch range, and this could create slippery driving conditions in the mountain regions. The snow is expected to continue into tomorrow in places like Bozeman, Missoula, and parts of Yellowstone National Park. So if you're traveling through those areas, make sure to be prepared for winter weather, including icy roads and snow-covered highways. Further east, the storm is moving into the Midwest and affecting the Great Lakes region. Snow is already starting to accumulate in areas like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and that trend is expected to continue for the next couple of days. The snow won't be intense or long-lasting, but it will still cause disruptions to travel in the form of slippery roads and reduced visibility. Places like Duluth, Green Bay, and Traverse City are expected to get several inches of snow by tomorrow afternoon. Northern Michigan, including the Upper Peninsula, is likely to receive heavier snow accumulation, with up to 6 inches or more falling in some areas. This is going to make for a challenging commute in these regions, especially for those heading out on the road. Moving to the northeast, a quick moving snowstorm is expected to bring fresh snow to areas like New York City, Connecticut, and parts of northern New Jersey and Pennsylvania. The snow will likely start later in the day and accumulate quickly, with the snow expected to last through the evening and possibly into the early morning hours tomorrow. The snow won't be particularly heavy, but areas like Albany, Syracuse, and Boston could see a couple of inches of snow accumulate by the time the storm moves out. While it won't be a major snowstorm, it could still cause delays and slow travel for commuters, so it's important to keep an eye on the forecast for updates. As the system pushes eastward, northern New England will likely see heavier snow, especially in Maine and New Hampshire, where snow totals could climb as high as 6 inches by tomorrow morning. Once the storm moves out of the northeast, conditions will begin to clear, and the region will return to more typical winter conditions. Sunny skies are expected, and temperatures should remain cold, although not as extreme as those seen further west. However, lake effect snow will continue to impact parts of the Great Lakes, especially near Buffalo, Cleveland, and Rochester, where localized bursts of heavier snow could cause brief but intense travel disruptions. Looking ahead to the weekend, a new storm system will start to form in the central U.S., impacting places like Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, and Nebraska. This system will bring a mix of rain and snow, along with strong winds that will make for dangerous driving conditions. By Sunday, the storm will move eastward, impacting the Great Lakes and Northeast once again. The weekend storm could bring several inches of snow to parts of Michigan, Ohio, and New York, while lake effect snow will also continue to affect areas near the Great Lakes. As the system moves east, we'll likely see a return of snow in the higher elevations, so be prepared for potential disruptions if you're traveling in those areas. Meanwhile, the southern U.S. will see a period of warmer than usual weather with temperatures climbing into the 70s and 80s in places like Texas, Louisiana, and Florida. This contrast in temperatures will set the stage for severe thunderstorms and possibly even tornadoes, especially in states like Alabama, Mississippi, and Tennessee. The warmth and moisture in the air, combined with the storm system pushing in from the north, create the right conditions for severe weather. Areas in the southeast need to remain vigilant for the potential for strong winds, hail, and possible tornado outbreaks, particularly as we move into the weekend. In summary, February is kicking off with a strong winter storm system that's affecting many parts of the U.S. While the west and the northern plains are experiencing significant snow and rain, other regions, including the Great Lakes, Midwest, and Northeast, are also seeing the impact of this storm. For the south, a warm-up could bring severe weather with the possibility of thunderstorms and tornadoes. This combination of conditions means that travelers across the country will need to stay prepared for rapidly changing weather, particularly in areas affected by snow, ice, and storms. It's going to be a busy week of weather-related travel disruptions, so make sure to check the forecast regularly for updates.